Hey Blades fans, I'm Alli Vellucci alongside Jake Maurice, and happy Wednesday from Hertz Arena. We're getting ready to take on the Orlando Solar Bears for the third game in a row. Jake, I'm owning up to our pregame show bet from last game. How did you do it? How did you beat me?
I told you there. It was fifth grade baseball really coming through about 13 years later. Pays dividends in the bet. So you're the one wearing the sweater for the next two games, Alli.
I'm in it right now, so it's fine. Let's go back to Saturday night. Not the showing that the Blades wanted. They're now 1-3 against Orlando this season. It's not something anyone expected. Orlando is in last place in the South Division. What is it about them that Florida just can't get past?
I don't think it's anything specific that Orlando does differently than other teams. I think just Orlando's really been great at taking advantage of the opportunities that the Everblades game have given them. On Saturday night, it was 3 early power plays, and they struck all 3 times, which obviously that puts you in a really bad spot, and Orlando was just able to hold that throughout the rest of the game. Florida could never really get themselves back into it in any meaningful way, even though they outshot Orlando throughout the game. It never really felt like the Everblades were pushing to get themselves back into it. So I don't really think it's anything that Orlando does specifically well against Florida. I think it's just that when they've had the chances against the Everblades, they're bearing them compared to other teams where the Everblades have been able to make the saves or the stops.
We have to at least mention the limited opportunities that Florida had on the power play. Only 1 the entire game. Meanwhile, Orlando had 7. How do you create the chances when you're not getting the man advantage opportunities?
No, and it's not just that you're not getting the man advantage opportunities. It's that you're spending around 14 minutes of the game killing penalties where you're not really reliably getting any opportunities. So that's a big factor. Although, to that other side of it, you have to take advantage of the opportunity that you do get. Florida didn't. And when you're killing off 7 penalties, yeah, sure, giving up 1 goal would be understandable, but 4, that's really tough. And I mean, Alli, you were watching the same game I did. Like, Orlando's power play just looked like they were having their way with Florida all throughout the game, even on the 3 where they didn't score. It was not a great night for Florida special teams.
You have to think, especially on the PK, those guys are out there for so long, even the second unit. It has to change the flow of the game at some point. How did you see it shift when they were hitting that 6th and 7th PK?
It just seemed like the guys were getting really tired. Like, it just seemed like the energy was getting sapped away from those guys. And then when they get back to the bench, they get back to 5-on-5. They don't have anything to try and push offensively. And Florida isn't a team where they're only running guys from their 3rd or 4th lines on their PK. They're running some of their bigger guys out there, like Oliver Chow, guys that they rely on offensively. So it's really hard for them to go out, play the hard penalty minutes, killing those off, especially with the way Orlando was moving it around, forcing Florida to really be active on their penalty kill. Then you don't have as much energy as you need, especially in a game where you're down 4 to try and mount a big comeback.
Feeding off of the specialty teams, Orlando scored 4 of their 5 goals on their power play. What did you see that was missing from RPK on Saturday night?
A big thing that was missing was clears, getting those face-off wins right at the start so you can get the puck down the ice, and then also clearing the lanes. A lot of times, Orlando was able to get good chances. They were able to get cross-ice passes and shots from the blue line where Cam Johnson wasn't able to clearly see what was coming. That's so damaging for a goalie, especially when you're down a man. And because even if you can make the save on the first try from the line where you can't really see it, if you can't really see it, even if you make the stop, you can't properly direct the rebound like you normally can. So it's just popping out. You don't know exactly where it's going. You've got to rely on your guys to help you get that away, except when you're down a man, that's way harder because you've probably got a couple guys who are trying to block the shot, so they're out of it. They're not going to be able to help you. And then the other guys, they've got to be able to react just as fast as you. So it's just way harder to get those kind of reaction plays when you're down a man. And unfortunately for Florida, 4 times they were burned on it. First time since 2014 they've given up 4 power play goals in a game. Obviously that should be an aberration. The Florida PK, while it's not one of the best units in the league, it's certainly much better than that. So I think I'm very confident. I'm very confident saying that was just a one-off tonight, and I think you'd agree with that.
Absolutely. And head coach Brad Rolfe, we've seen him make adjustments all season long. He's made adjustments on the lineups. Injuries, illness has come into play too. Where do you think we're going to see a lot more adjustments coming into tonight, or if any at all?
Well, I imagine there will be quite a few on the PK, given what happened last game. I mean, the score was 1-1 at 5-on-5, so obviously you're not thrilled with the way the game went because you needed more to try and get yourself back into the game, and 1 goal at 5-on-5 isn't going to get it done in any game unless you're telling Cam Johnson we need you to be perfect, which he can be, but not every night. You're going to need a lot more than 1 goal. Also, I think that Florida, they need to be better at drawing penalties and staying disciplined. Yes, you could argue that the reffing was a little unbalanced in the game on Saturday, but you're going to quickly realize whether or not the officiating is going to be balanced. And if you see that, okay, maybe they're getting calls we're not. You need to be able to react to that, because just complaining from the bench, that's just going to get you into more trouble. And just getting frustrated, that means you're more likely to just take a stupid stick penalty or something like that, or run a guy from behind, just something you can't afford to do where the refs are going to call it on you. So you need to be able to keep your head in the game and realize, okay, the officiating, it's maybe more a little bit on their side tonight than it is on ours, but we just need to play around that so we give ourselves the best chance to win.
Let's talk the goalie situation. Evan Fitzpatrick has been out for a couple weeks now. Cam Johnson has been holding it down, and he's played in 8 straight games. If he starts again tonight, it'll be 4 starting. At what point do you maybe rest him, or do you keep him in and give him a shot to redeem himself here?
Well, Cam Johnson definitely gives you the best chance to win every night. I mean, even with Evan Fitzpatrick, when he was healthy and able to go, you'd probably, if it were a Game 7 situation, you'd go with Johnson over Fitzpatrick. So I imagine a lot of it will come down to how Johnson is feeling. You've got the Christmas break coming up at the end of the week, but you've got 2 big divisional games here. And yeah, I'd imagine that Johnson is going to want a chance to redeem himself tonight. I mean, last game was not his style of play whatsoever. Yes, he's played a lot of hockey, but the team, apart from that 3-3 stretch where he wasn't expected to come in the game on Thursday, December 8th against Savannah, he had to, just due to the way that game was going. These big divisional games, the team kind of needs him, and he's a goalie who he can start long stretches of time where he's just going game after game after game. So I think with the Christmas break coming up, he's probably going to want to start both games, just that competitive fire, whether the coaching staff does. I don't think there's a wrong way to handle it over these last 2 games. Next week, when the team plays a 3-3, 3 games, 3 nights in 3 cities, there's no way he's going to start all 3 of those. No goaltender really could. But I'm anticipating that he'll probably start. He's definitely going to start at least 1 game this week here at home. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts both.
The Orlando and Florida rivalry is very well known. We saw the physicality on Saturday night. Both teams wouldn't get off the ice at the end. They were exchanging words after the buzzer. At what point do you have to put that part of the game aside and really just focus on winning the game that's in front of you?
Well, I imagine the officials are going to be watching today's game a little bit more closely, and I think you'd agree with that. You've got to be careful with it the second the puck drops, because maybe you get it all out of the way early in a fight. A guy like Newber or Crossley goes out there, settles things across with one of the tough guys from the Solar Bears, and you sort of just get it out that way. But yeah, you don't want to allow it to bleed into the game and get yourself in more penalty trouble, especially given what happened last week. Orlando, I imagine they're feeling really good about themselves on the power play, especially against Florida. And you also have to remember that for Orlando, this is the start of 3 games in 3 nights for them, all against South Division opponents for a team that's currently sitting last in the division. They're going to see this as a huge chance to climb up and get themselves back towards the playoff standings, because we're getting close to the halfway mark of the season. And if Orlando were to let these points slip by, they could put themselves into a really tough spot to try and mount a comeback this year and get themselves back into the playoffs. So the Solar Bears, this is a huge stretch for them. They want to start it off the right way. I'm expecting a physical game tonight, but both teams are going to need to keep themselves within the rule books, because I imagine, given what happened last week, the ending you alluded to, which was pretty nasty between the 2 squads, the refs are going to be looking out a little bit more carefully tonight than they were earlier in the season.
All right, Jake, it's going to be a feisty one tonight. Blades fans, get loud for some Wednesday night hockey. Warm-ups and puck drop are up next.